What is up, chocolatiers? It's the next day from me watching Salem's Lot. I'm going to try to get this review out today. That movie let me down. So, in the middle of watching it, I was messaging a friend, and I was like, dude, I don't know why people don't like this movie. I was like, it's not bad. You know, it's not like a 10 out of 10. I know why it's not in theaters, which automatically makes some of my reviews from the past kind of stupid, because I kept bitching and complaining. This was one of the movies I kept being like, man, you see what David's doing over there? No, David was kind of cooking with this one. I wouldn't have spent money for this either, because after word of mouth for this movie wouldn't have made no money. I understand why they did that. I've never been so let down by a film. So I was halfway through reading the book, and my plan was to finish it by the time that the movie came out. And basically, long story short, I finished the audiobook. But it was one of those things where, like, you finish the last few hours, but I kind of forgot it because I was doing other stuff in the background. So I basically didn't, like, mentally, because I just remember how it ended, but, like, a lot of stuff, you know, was kind of coming out of there. And I was planning on finishing it, and it never happened. And so I'm definitely going to finish it now. Like, actually, because I have a physical book, I'm actually going to finish reading it. And it's just one of those things where I want to, because this movie has great build-up. Great, I almost would say action scenes, but like great horror scenes, great builds up of tension, you know, scary scenes. There's like a scene where like a vampire comes back to this man's house, and this man is like using a cross to kind of like, you know, repel him. He's like, get out of my house, this and that. And like just the way the vampire moves, just this scene of tension and build up is just so good. It's so good. And you know, even like the third act, there's so many things that happen. I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, this is great. You know, like Barlow in the book, I don't believe that he talks at all, that I can remember. And I know in the OG film he didn't talk. And he has a scene in this movie where he's challenging a priest, and he's like, he like looks at him and he's like, oh, you a man of God. And that, I was like, dude, that's kind of heat. I was like, okay, I'm liking this. I like the changes. I like what's going on. But then every time that happened, I kept sitting there going, but why are these characters so involved? There's no build up to any of these characters. Like, for example, my two favorite characters. I believe it's Mark. I keep wanting to call him Matt. I think it's Mark. Mark and Ben. Are the two goats. Mark is definitely the goat. That's the little black boy that you saw in the trailer. He pretty much kills like fucking 50,000 vampires in this movie. He's like Dean Winchester, okay? And Ben is like the main character. He comes to the town because he's like, you know, his parents died here when he was younger, when he was around 9 years old. He left the town, and he basically comes back to the town because he's an author, so he's writing a book. And he's like, okay, how am I going to sit here and, you know, get some inspiration for this book, you know, whatever, blah, blah. And so around this time that this happens, I would say about a week or so before, I'm talking about the movie, by the way, about a week or so before, this man brings his coffin into the Marston house, which is like notoriously known for like being a house where this guy killed, you know, like his family or some shit like that. I like, they really don't even talk about that in the movie. That's my thing too. Like, they bring it up, but like everything's just so superficial. And basically, long story short, Barlow is a vampire. He's like in the Stephen King universe, he's like a type 1 vampire. But I don't think they even mention, like, they don't go into none of that, which they don't have to. But it's one of those things where, like, that's why he can't talk, stuff like that. And so they didn't have to bring any of that up, because once again, he does in this movie. There's some changes, but it's just one of those things where, like, everything was just so bare minimum. Like, the vampires look cool, the action looks cool. Like I said, the dread and suspense is awesome. Like, there's like scary scenes that happen, and I'm just like, oh man, that was kind of creepy. But then there's so many things that also happen. Like, I would say the second act is where they lose me. So like, one of these characters, for example, like, they find out that vampires exist. They just kind of go with the flow. They fight a couple vampires. The next thing I know, the movie's third act's happening. Even in the third act, so I have HBO Max with ads because it's included in my phone plan. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to pay, like, I think HBO Max like $15 a month. I was like, I'll just take it with ads. Okay, whatever. So we're like 4 commercial breaks in this movie. At each commercial break, I literally dead ass was like, oh, I missed something. It must have like fucked up. You know how streaming services do with commercials. So they must have cut like a few minutes off. And so I was like, let me rewind it. No, I didn't miss any scenes. I thought that this movie was like cut weird, and it is. So like, for example, in the third act, you have characters that fight certain vampires, before they're getting up to the final boss. And it goes to a commercial break, and then it comes back, and then they're like, oh man, hoorah, we've done, and I'm like, I missed some shit? I rewind? No, we didn't. It just was cut like that. There's no like build up. There's no any kind of like payoff. Like even like the way the movie ends, I don't know if it ends like this in the book. Like I said, I can't remember, but it just kind of like goes off. Like, I've got questions. I'm sitting there going, so is anybody like gonna notice that like now whole town's missing? Like any of that? It's like any of that. I've got questions like that, and I don't know, like this movie just let me down, and I really hate that. Like I really hate that. I remember when it started off, I was hearing the soundtrack. I said, okay, I'm liking the vibes. I love this is set in the right time period, because that was one of the things I hate about the It movies. They're like, we got to get with the times. Stranger Things is hype, so let's do the 80s and 2000s instead of like the 60s and 80s or whatever. And so I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. And with this movie, they had everything perfect, like everything. But like I feel like even the town is like playing a point in the book, like as like a character, and like outside of these characters, I don't know anything about the town. I don't know anything about its residents except for one librarian that they make a scene about like how she, is kind of like the town goss, and I don't know, like this movie just let me down, guys. I really hate that I don't like it. The third act is really cool. There's some really cool scenes, but like, for example, I guess I'll end it here. One of the best examples I can think about this movie about how it let me down is that there is a scene in this movie where it's the infamous scene. It's if I could reach for my book, but there's stuff on top of it. But basically, there's a character that comes to a windowsill and tries to talk to another character and like compel them to open the window. This and that. And I just feel like that should have had so much more tension. In the movie, he just goes to the window, he's like, open it, and the boy's like, okay, you compelled me. And then he's like, oh wait, fuck that. And then he puts a cross onto him, and the boy flies out, and that's it. And I was like, I feel like there should have been like more creepiness, like more, I don't know, like just anything but a 5-second scene. Like it's like everything was so fast. Like if something happened and like a main character got killed, which happens in this movie, like 2 or 3 main characters get like killed, like shot, hurt, whatever. And like when this happens, I'm over here like, oh my god. 2-3 minutes later, I'm still like, oh wow, this person just died. And like the movie just does not give a shit. The movie's like, okay, all right, let's go to the next scene. And I'm just like, is no character gonna mention that this person's dead? Is no character gonna react like this? Like for example, Ben. I'm not going to spoil who it is, but somebody, as you can probably tell, it's a vampire movie. Somebody gets turned to a vampire, and he doesn't like this. And the whole time, sitting there going, "Why do you care so much?" Now, in the book, he lost his family, so when he's losing somebody else close to him, it makes sense build up wise. They're building up to something. But in this movie, it's like he talks to somebody for like maybe 5 seconds. Knows them for maybe 1 day, and he's like, I can't kill them, and I'm just like, I don't believe this. Like, it's not believable to me. And so unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say that I think the 78 version, that's what year it came out, that movie's way better. That it's a lot better, especially like tension wise. I think it's like 3 hours, which is what this movie should have been. I don't think it should have been like necessarily 3, but like it's not even cut in 2. This could have easily been 2.5. Flesh out some more characters, flesh out some world building. Like, there's so many characters in this movie that don't get their due. Like, they're just in it. And then something happens to them, and they're just like, okay, we'll just get to the next one. That person's, their story's done. And I'm just like, I didn't know anything about them, though, so I don't feel any of this emotion that you want me to feel. And so comment down below, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you catch Salem's Lot, and if you didn't catch Salem's Lot, let me know why. Is it because of this review, or is it because you heard other things? And if you read the book, comment down below, let me know your thoughts on the accuracy of the book. I think that they captured third act kind of decently, but like I said, everything's just so rushed. And with that, please like and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.
And so, man.
I love my popcorn. Movies, popcorn.